Reddit. What's your best, funniest personal example of petty revenge? Story 1. I had a guy in school who would always skip class and then ask for my notes. We had a group project worth almost 40% of our grade once, and he did zero work, and the professor told me, tough luck. Instead of just saying no the next time he asked for notes, I took the low road and began giving him edited versions. I would leave items out of lists, incorrectly define things, or just straight up write stuff that makes no sense. An example of the crap I would put in: to calculate return on investment, subtract your yearly earnings from your current bank balance, then multiply by Escher's factorial, 4.22. If he had even once bothered to crack the text, he would have figured it out, but that apparently would have been too much effort for him. He retook that class. Story 2. I have two, with the previous landlord property management company. I signed a lease on a townhouse while in college that included high-speed internet. The setup was basically one shitty router for 14 townhouses, so like 28 people. Needless to say, it was and the location of our unit versus the router made it even worse. We made some calls to try and get them to add a router or hardwire us in so we could add our own. No dice. Eventually, I paid to get my own service and added 2 routers to our unit. I changed the SSID to match what the free router was, and I kept the passwords the same, so to the residents it looked like there was better coverage. After about 2 weeks, I changed one router's password and just disconnected the other. So some residents could use the free router, some had a bad password, and some could connect but couldn't reach the outside world. They must have been flooded with calls because within 24 hours they had someone out and added 3 new routers to help with coverage. The other was after a huge snowfall, about 24 inches in 24 hours. The property management company hadn't touched the snow in our parking lot for days. After day 3, I called to mention we were sort of trapped and they needed to send trucks and snowblowers, etc. to take care of things. The response I got was basically, "Sorry, we'll get to it sooner or later." Side note, years ago, if you opened a Yahoo email, you could add a second email for recovery without confirming it. So I created a new Yahoo email address and used their general @property management as the alternate email. I had to copy every email to both. I then signed up for alerts every time there was an eBay listing for snowplow, snowblower, snow shovel, or there was a sale on snow removal gear. It took a matter of hours before thousands of emails were sent, ended up crashing their email server. They responded to all residents with a very nice email explaining they get the frustration and that they were working on it, so I paused the alerts. 24 hours later, still nothing, alerts back on. Another email, another pause, another day of nothing, repeat. Eventually, we got the driveway plowed and life was good. Here's some more stories. In my 3rd year of school, I and 5 other guys rented a 6-bedroom house from this awesome couple. The lady was the defense attorney in town, the husband managed the houses they had. Super cool, very responsive, and just great landlords. In year 4, we stay at the house, all 6 of us, but cool owners subbed the management duties out to XYZ Property Management, who control like 95% of the rentals in this town. No major changes other than everything now takes forever to get taken care of, but whatever, we deal with it. The move-out time comes and we get a call from XYZ saying they don't have a damage report for the house, so every piece of damage they find will be charged to us. We're all pissed since the house had its share of damage prior to our move-in. I called the owner's defense attorney and asked how damages are fixed if it's outside of the security deposit amount for us and fill her in on what they're doing. She said that in the management agreement, they are responsible for all damage as of the date they've taken over, unless it requires an insurance claim. She advised me to go ahead and stick with them with the bill since she knew we filled out a damage sheet on move-in and we kept it in good shape. I found the original damage slip from 2 years prior, updated it accordingly with any new items, copied, crumpled it up a bit, a coffee stain or 2 for aging, and upon walkthrough when they mentioned we would be stuck with all repairs, I presented a copy of the damage report from our move-in 2 years prior. They then asked to have that copy and that they would send us a new copy when they got back to the office, which we declined. Then they said they couldn't honor it because it wasn't their letterhead and was from a prior owner, who still owned it. We called the DA and she took our side, citing that they should have taken care of them when they took over and she might have to rethink her contract with them, a 100% security refund for all of us. Year 5 townhouse, 5-year plan, had our lease start on July 1st, but both my roomie and I had internships and she couldn't get there until around Labor Day. I drove to the apartment to drop off a load of my stuff for the year and pick up the keys. I signed for the keys and go on my way. Within 10 seconds of walking into the apartment, overwhelming stink my nose. Someone had closed up the fridge, then unplugged it. The mold was out of control. I call them and explain what was going on, and they tell me that it's my problem since I didn't report it within 48 hours of July 1st, the lease start date. I kindly reminded them I picked up the keys 15 minutes ago and had not been there. No luck from them. 15 minutes on Google leads me to the state health department, which my mother works for, requirements for apartments. There is a blurb that said something along the lines of, quote, if mold is found in one unit, all adjoining units must be tested and be giving full remediation. I called one more time and said I need a new fridge or could clean it up myself, but would be withholding the portion of rent for my time and cleaning materials. They denied me. I copied all the managers at XYZ Property Management and my mother/her boss, who had healthdepartment.gov email addresses. The basics of the email were what I found, photos, and a snapshot of the state statute I mentioned. Within 60 seconds of the email going out, I had a call from XYZ, an angry call. We ended up not having to pay rent for July, August, September, and October. The final thing was XYZ always used our apartment for their showings since we had a pretty bomb-ass multi-TV and projector setup in the basement. The problem was they wouldn't give the required 24-hour heads up. They would knock with a group of people and say, hey, sorry guys, but Unit 1 was supposed to let us in, but whatever excuse, can we quick see yours so they don't have to reschedule? We always said yes because I felt bad that these other kids would get jammed up. We asked a few times that they start calling ahead like they legally have to, but it fell on deaf ears. Eventually, we found out one of the managers who did a lot of the showings had an embarrassing legal history. I used the plotter on campus to print out some of these charges, all public knowledge, and some really unflattering photos that went with each from his Facebook. We hung them all over the apartment and waited. 2 days later, random showing. The look on his face was priceless. That was the last showing he gave there. Others in the office still came by though. Story 3. Okay, so this one is not easy to understand, so let me explain first something about Chinese Shanghai culture. Old Chinese think that it's really shameful to have a son near 30 who is still not married because it means that you are not a good parent for not having found a good bride for your son, or you are too poor to afford marriage, or your son is ugly. People won't care if someone doesn't want to have a family or what. Anyway, they're going to speak ill about you and your family. The pressure is pretty high and everyone tends to want a grandchild, better if male, as soon as possible. My mother got sick 5 years ago in China. We are immigrants, so she doesn't have insurance there. Her treatment went more than $30,000 and we went broke. Since her aunts and uncles still owed her some money, she asked back some, but guess what? They denied it and left her sick and wait for death because they don't need the friendship of someone broke. I have to quit school and work to help her, and that was the reason for my poor English. After 4 years, she was cured and I got myself a family, had 2 sons, and bought a house with the help of my in-laws' business. Everything turns out just fine. Last year, I took my sons to China, went to visit all of them as the tradition says, and they gave me the red pocket money for my sons with a sour face, and I asked my mom why. She told me that her aunt and uncle's sons are still single, all of them, and I have not 1, but 2 children. I spend the whole night pointing out how wonderful it is to have children. Sorry, not a funny story. Story 4. This happened to my partner when he was at university. Another comment here reminded me of it. His class was doing presentations in pairs and he got paired with some girl who didn't bother to bring notes or research information for their presentation. She instead let him do all the work and any slides she did were made from his notes and research. He complained to his tutor and she told him, "Don't worry, leave it to me." And then the day of the presentation comes. They present and then at the end the tutor asks the girl a question. If I remember correctly, the question was something like, "Is there any evidence to suggest that some cultures are more prone to mental health problems?" And the girl answered, "No." The tutor then asked my partner the same exact question, and because he'd actually read the research on the topic, he was able to list several studies that showed that some of the cultures are in fact more prone to mental health issues. The girl glared at him the entire time he answered the tutor's question. Pretty sure she ended up with a D while he got an A, or at least a B. Story 5. This dude in my accounting class in high school used to ask me for answers to questions, only to spout them to the teacher like he'd worked them out, thereby looking like a genius and getting credit for my work. One day, our teacher comes into class with a pierced tongue and is talking sort of funny. Terry, as his name is, proceeds to use it as a point of conversation. Hey, miss, do you have any other piercings, like your ear? No, she responds, thinking he's making an inane conversation. Would you get your nose pierced? He keeps asking, just to prolong the time before class starts. As usual, he leans over asking for help. What are some other good things to ask her? I was annoyed that he always asked for my help to benefit him, so I thought I'd have some fun. Labia. Ask if she's going to get her labia pierced. The fuck is a labia? He says. Oh, sorry. It just means eyebrow. That's like the piercing name for it. Like how a tragus is that nose piercing, yeah? Oh, cool. Hey, miss, are you going to get your labia pierced next? Every girl, and especially the teacher in the class, looked at him like he was trash, and he tried blaming me, but I brushed it off gracefully. Story 6. My mom had a fantastic one. She was a language teacher at my high school, and years after I had graduated, she called me kind of upset because a group of guys was trying to make her look dumb. The class was supposed to write one of those team dialogues in Spanish and had a week or so to prepare it, then had to perform it in front of the class. When she called for them to do theirs, they said, "But we already did ours. We're not doing it again." She said, "You definitely didn't do it. I don't have any record of it here, and I would remember it if you had." They refused to do it, insisting they already performed it and that it was her fault she didn't take notes and scores down. She was feeling puzzled and questioning herself when one of the good kids came and said, "They didn't do it. They were bragging about making you look stupid and threatened the whole class if they told you anything. But please don't tell them I told you this. I don't want any problems with them." These were these stereotypical dumb jock types who everyone was scared of for whatever reason. My mom was really into yoga at the time and got a great idea while meditating. She went in the next day and said, "Boys, I owe you an apology. I found my notes on your presentation and I do remember it. I don't know how I forgot." She went on to describe all the grammatical mistakes they made, that their dialogue hadn't been as long as required, that they didn't include the necessary vocabulary, etc. All made up, of course. She failed them all on the project and they couldn't do a thing about it without admitting they'd made it all up. Story 7. When I was a kid, I had a bedwetting problem. I'm not ashamed of this now, as thousands of other kids have had the same problems. At the time, however, this was a bit humiliating. My younger brother started telling other kids around school how extensive the issue was. I was mortified. Even after our mother told him to knock it off, he continued. So I decided to level the playing field. The whole hand in a cup of warm water deal didn't work. I stood over him as he slept one night and pissed on him. The next morning, my mom was horrified and wound up taking a call from my grandmother. "I don't know what to do. Now both of them are pissing the bed," she explained, clearly frustrated. After a few more times of framing my brother as a bedwetter, he completely stopped using my embarrassing problem as entertainment. Story 8. Back in college, I was sitting in the library trying to work on an assignment. All was quiet for a while until this one obnoxious guy comes in and sits at a table near me and proceeds to pull out his phone and have the loudest, most obnoxious conversation with one of his friends. You know, lots of "bro, seriously, bro?" and yada 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 yada. I was about to pack up my things and find somewhere else to work when the conversation turned to Netflix. The guy told his friend he should just use his account and proceeded to loudly state his email address and password for all to hear. This was just too good of an opportunity for me to pass up, so I promptly logged in and navigated to the LGBT section and started adding the gayest movies I could find to the top of the queue. I like to think that both guys ended up thinking the other one added the movies to the queue, but they were too shocked to ever say anything to each other. Story 9. In 7th grade, I used to bring homemade lunch to school. We prepared our own salad dressing, lemon juice, salt, oil, etc. And one kid decided it would be good to steal it and drink it before lunchtime. I asked him not to, but he continued to drink it but started doing so in one gulp, so I couldn't stop him. So instead of making a huge deal, I prepared 2 salad dressings, one that I would actually use on my salad and another that had all the liquid condiments I could find in my mom's kitchen. It was really fun to see his face as he drank it. He never stole my salad dressing again. Story 10. I worked in a fish factory most summers when I was in my teens, and there was a boy who also worked there one summer who was an and a bully. I and another girl were his main targets, and this was really disgusting verbal bullying. Racial in nature, the other girl was of a mixed race. He would yell his insults over the factory announcement system whenever he didn't have enough work to keep him busy. The foreman refused to get involved, so we took action. One day, we finished work before he did and spotted his car out in the parking lot, his dad's car actually. We looked at each other, went back into the building, got several rolls of toilet paper and a packet of menstrual pads and quote-unquote decorated the car with them. The car was seen by many of our coworkers, some of whom also witnessed the decorating and cheered us on. Once he got out, he just stood there, blushing and embarrassed and wondering who could have done this to him. He was very subdued at work after that and the bullying nearly stopped. I hope because what we did made him realize what it felt like to be at the victim's end of it. The best thing about it was that everyone, including his brother, knew who had done it. No one told him. Story 11. As a nurse, we had this god-awful patient who made all of our lives hell. Needed pain meds on the dot, needed to smoke every half hour, and sat in the call light all the damn day. This person was possibly the rudest human being I'd ever met. Treated us like slaves and were seeking. It finally came time for discharge, and this patient decided to come up with a whole bunch of new medical problems. I have chest pain. I have nausea. One side of my body feels numb. So, being the very skilled and rational nurse I am, I asked the doctor for a whole new set of orders. First, I asked for lab draws every 3 hours, meaning needles every 3 hours, to check cardiac markers. Then I asked that the PT be placed on NPO status, nothing by mouth, for nausea. This person couldn't go an hour without eating something. For the numbness, I requested the PT be placed on strict bed rest for 24 hours and then have a physical therapy evaluation ordered, which meant no more going downstairs to smoke. I explained this all to the patient and he says, "I just wanted to stay another night. I ain't doing any of that. I feel fine. Just give me my damn papers." Talked it over with the doctor on call and he gave me the all clear to discharge and I had him out the door in an hour. Story 12. Had a chief warrant officer in Iraq throw a bottle of petroleum jelly at me after I got done ranting about something I'd long since forgotten. Told me to go take care of it and come back when I feel better. During his afternoon siesta, I spent an hour covering everything on his desk with it in the most inconspicuous spots. For example, inside the handle of a coffee mug, underneath the handle of the Keurig pod loader, behind the canister holding the Keurig coffee pods, anywhere he could grab something and not see it without first inspecting it. He came back and proceeded to curse at a rate never witnessed before as he had to continuously wipe all the jelly off his hands every 3 minutes. He caught the jelly on the inside rims of his over-the-ear headphones before he rimmed his ears with it, but the best came after I let him calm down and get back to work. Everyone else in the office watched me do it. No one said a thing, but they all had their eyes on me as I waited 5 minutes before picking up my phone on my desk and slowly dialed the number at his desk. It rings and everyone turns to look at him. He's on the computer, picks up the phone, slaps it to his ear. "Radio Battalion Sima son of a..." Turns his head, his ear was caked full of petroleum jelly I had dumped all over the earpiece of the phone. Master Guns and Major told me these antics and pranks made that deployment. C.W. Orion, if you're reading this, sorry, not sorry. Story 13. Back when I was a senior in high school, around Christmas time, my parents allowed me to skip school to go buy Christmas gifts and say f*** it for the day. I had my license, so I was excited to just do my own thing that day. I head out to the mall in the other town and I'm having one of those really good days, where for no particular reason, you're just happy and floating through the day. It was sunny out and not too cold, just a perfect day. After I finish up at the mall, I figure I would treat myself. I got one of those big gulp Slurpees from 7-Eleven. The almost gallon-looking cup barely fits into any of your cup holders with the red shovel end straw of a Mountain Dew Code Red. Hell yes, this was continuing to be an awesome day. I needed to cross a bridge to get over the big river in our area and onto the highway I needed. The bridge had the outside lane closed midway through. I'm on the inside lane and need to get to the right turn lane at the end of the bridge. Before the closure, this lady in a nice BMW tries to speed up and cut in front of me before the lane closed. I was like, what the f***? This was dangerous as it was being all tight and everyone followed close, so I don't let her in and she slides in behind me, cutting off the person behind me. Whatever. I can see in my mirror she is waving her arms around and is upset. As I pull into the right turn lane, she pulls up next to me and rolls down her window. All I see are animated movements and someone yelling. So I roll down my window. This old bitch isn't going to ruin my day. My initial plan is to just be overly nice to her. People in a fit hate it when you're super nice to them. But after I roll down my window, I hear her breaking into a tirade against teenage drivers. You kids should learn manners. You kids shouldn't be driving. I'll have you arrested, and just being a mean woman because I wouldn't let her break the rules and cut everyone in line. So I had a moment of brilliance. I reach over, grab my fully filled and bright red Slurpee, and with my right arm, I sorta chucked it across my body. My initial plan was that it would hit her door or something and spill everywhere on her paint, causing her to have to go have a car wash. What actually happened turned out better than I could have ever imagined. Now, remember, she was leaning over into the passenger seat to yell at me, so as I chucked this tank of red sticky slushy out of my window, it didn't hit her car door or any part of the outside. Instead, it sailed perfectly into her open window and fucking exploded when it hit the headrest of her passenger seat. I'm talking bright red slushy exploding all over that nice tan leather interior, windshield, and best of all, on her face. The look of utter shock and awe on her face was absolutely incredible. She went from one moment being rude, mean, and authoritative to suddenly being shocked and trying to process her situation. I simply said, "Merry Christmas," and drove away. Those were the only words I spoke to her. Afterward, I felt kinda bad. I mean, I didn't mean to throw it in her car, but rather on it. That mess must have been a pain in the to get cleaned up. But after thinking about it a little more, I was very happy that it turned out the way it did.